Right, so we've got Gillian with us today and Robert. So Robert comes to the Tuesday class normally, but he had to swap over to Wednesday, Thursday, and Gillian's trying out class to see if she likes it. So I'm going to carry on so this month I've been working on like a weather theme and also skies. So I've done a couple of weeks demos on skies, and I thought I'd move on to misty scenes this week, and then next week rainy scenes.
Good, might have sunshine then.
So we had the sunshine. So I thought what I'd try and do is a couple of very quick demos. So I'll do one in watercolours, first one in watercolours, and then the second one in oils. Okay. So I'm going to start off. Right, so I thought this one for watercolours and this one for oils. So I've got some colour mix from this morning and it may still be enough. So to start with, I just want to get a kind of background colour. And to me, this feels like a sort of warm grey colour. So I've got some raw sienna here, like a yellowy colour, and a little bit of a purple to mix with it. Let's just mix a bit more. You have to be a bit careful putting blue in with something yellow, otherwise it'll go a bit green. So I'll find something slightly purpley, which that is, that's good. And just using a nice big brush, because I want to get the whole of the page wet. So this will be mostly painted wet paint into wet paint. So a bit of the yellow and a tiny bit of the purple mixed in with that. Let's bring these up a little bit. So we want to get a background colour in there. This particular brush, somebody gave me this and it's quite a nice brush, and it's like a natural hair brush and they hold quite a lot of moisture, the natural hair ones. A bit more than the synthetic ones. So it can be good for putting on big washes like that. And as I go a little bit further down, I just want to get it a little bit more purpley. So just kind of, I'll just let that run down now. While that's wet, I want to start painting in these misty trees. So going for a slightly smaller brush and one that's more pointed. And I want the paint to be I don't want too much moisture in the paint, because this is wet already. If I put too much water in, it will just push all the colours out of the way. So I thin the colour, and I'll do a little bit of that from the side. Depending on how wet the paint is, you get this soft and slightly bleeding effect. And it feels like it might even be a bit too wet, because it's getting a bit thinner. Let's try another one over here, perhaps. And I think I'll go for a smaller brush actually. Let's try that one for change. So this is a flatter brush. Yeah, that's quite a slightly smaller mark. That's what I want to do. If you're going to try this as an exercise, I would just suggest doing a small section. It would be quite hard to get all these trees painted in while it's still wet, because it's just going to dry quite quickly. So that could be the first couple. I'll just carry that one down a little bit more. And then if I wanted some slightly stronger, darker trees in the foreground, another mix. So I'll use some of the purple again, but just a little bit of green mixed in with it. My colours are tube colours, which I've put out before, and then I'll tend to use these like really old children's brush, very scrubby, but I find that they're really good for just getting the paint. If the paint's slightly dried up, I can just get it to rehydrate a little bit. And get that to a good strength there. A little bit of purple and a little bit of green together. then sort of going in a bit darker. That's probably a bit too purple. Let's have a bit more green. And let's use this brush as well to get some slightly finer marks. Now up here, I can feel the paper is just starting to dry a little bit in places. Starting to get a sharper edge there and a softer edge here. So it's just something to be aware of, that if you're in a warm environment, that the paper will start to dry out quite quick. I quite like that. I quite like the slightly greeny, slightly purpley look to that. If you find it's all gone too dry, or it started to dry, it's probably best to let it dry completely. If I started sort of putting, the danger of keep working is I might start lifting colours off. So I usually let them dry completely. This was another one that I worked on as a demo in the week. But if I wanted to add more to that, so I wanted to add a little bit more here, I find it one way to do that is to just re-dampen the. Yeah, I use a spray, just spray of water. You could use a brush, but you might end up lifting colour off, so the spray just re-dampens that. So if I just, the difficulty is knowing how wet to make it. That might be too wet. So with watercolours, it's a little bit hit and miss. But hopefully I could get some now. Yeah, I can get some sort of, that's the equivalent of working into a wet in wet surface again. So, yeah, so you can get back to those sort of softer edges.
Yeah, it's a good idea with this spray.
So again, nice little exercise. I suggest sort of work fairly small, maybe just do a couple of trees, and maybe have a few on the go if you want to do that one. So that's the watercolours.
Yeah.
I'll do a little bit in oils, so I'll just swap everything over. Swap palettes. That's that one. And I'll use this board. I've been painting these on these blue boards this week, but it's very too absorbent, that primer. I can use this one. So with the oils, so it's water mixable oils that I'm using, water soluble. I've got a set here if anybody wants to have a go. But, I was very kindly given by one of the other students who didn't like the smell of them. I think they smell right, they smell like vegetable oil to me. But she didn't like the smell of these particular ones, so bought another set for herself, a different make, which she does get on with, so that's good. Right, so something like this, you could, if you wanted to sketch it out first, absolutely you could do that. For me, there's not too much to draw there. I'd probably start with the sky. I've got some magenta here and a little bit of yellow, what's that one, cadmium yellow. And with these oils, I don't particularly like, one way you can work them is to put almost like a watercolour wash down and let that dry and then do another layer over the top. So that's one way of working, sort of build it up in layers. It's a really good way to work, sort of traditional way to work. If you get the surface very, very wet, you won't be able to get more paint to stick. So it's just something to be aware of. The way I'll demonstrate it today is really using them fairly sort of creamy, buttery consistency. So there's a tiny bit of moisture here, but not too much. So I'll just do a small version here. Yeah, that's going quite nicely. I'm just working on a bit of cardboard that I don't know where it came from. Might be a bit of mount board. And I've primed it with an acrylic gesso primer. So it's like acrylic primer. So a little bit more pink, I think. And what I really like about these is that the colour will stay wet for quite a while. So things like skies, it's very nice to be able to sort of blend these colours. I could do this with acrylics, but it will dry very, very quickly. So I can't actually blend the acrylics very quickly. Whereas this, you know, I can just take my time, want to light a bit. Let's bring some lighter bits in. While I'm here, I might as well try and get some of this colour, which is pretty much really just reflecting the sky colour. So I really want to use the same sort of colours. So there. And actually the whole of this, I could actually just paint this colour because we've got a lot of wet and water there. I think that can go. That colour, just put that in like that. Then we'll get some of this sort of colour in. I've got a collection of these photographs that mostly I've just got off the internet, so they're not my own. Some of my own images, but most are other people's. So they're quite nice misty scenes and good for just practicing. So I'm going to mix this slightly lilac-y lavendery colour. So some blue and magenta, so ultramarine blue and magenta, and a little bit of white. And that can go in, I think about here. And the nice thing is, if I want to soften the edges, I could just get a dry brush and just sort of feather the edges out a little bit. Soft edge. So yeah, sort of that. I can also, to me, there's some sort of slightly bluey greeny colours in there as well. So I use this cerulean colour and a little bit of white, and hopefully that's a bit too dark, like that. I want to get it at the same sort of tone, so it's roughly as light, but you just get a slight variation in the colour. To me, that will start to just mix in the viewer's eye then. Interesting. So it's one way I quite like to work, having some colours that you then put some more colours into. Then working forwards, this bit and this bit. I've got this one, this just sort of reminds me of when I've been painting out here at dawn occasionally, get these beautiful sort of colours and reflections. So getting a kind of greyish colour. We've got these mud banks here. So going slightly lighter, and then there's a few bits. There's a little bit in here, perhaps a little bit more lilac-y. Tiny bit of brown, just stop it being too purple, just make it a little bit grey. We've got some lighter colours here. Something. Again, this paint, I've put it on quite thinly, so I can get some other colours to stick over that. A few darker bits in there. And then the last bit would be putting a boat or two in. Let's try that brush, it's a smaller brush. So again, that can go a bit darker. Let's put one in here. Again, I'm working into wet paint, so I can get a certain amount of that to cover. Oops, that's a bit long. And then there's a few sort of shadows and there. Nice bit of reflection just under here, slightly lighter than the boat itself, and then I'll just try and find. I use this. You could use palette knife, or if you've got a very thin brush, you could do it with a brush, but I think mine aren't good enough. The ones I've got here. So I'll just use a palette knife, and this is quite a nice long palette knife. I can just get some paint on the edge, and then hopefully print that down as a mark. Like that. That was a little bit blurred. Let's do a couple more. So if you had a few more masts, that sort of thing. Boats and you're not too close, so don't look too bad. So there's a few of the techniques that I'd use for oil painting.
You did that one light first and then the dark colours. Could you have done it the other way around? Why did you choose to do it that way around?
I think because, so this is how I quite often paint when I'm painting outdoors. So this is like painting in one section, one kind of layer really. For me, these pinky colours are reflected off the mud, so it just, to me, it just sort of made more sense to get the pink colour down first. I think, I'll tell you why, is sometimes if I put, say, the dark colour here, and then put the pink into that would get contaminated quite quickly. It would get churned up. So sometimes I paint lighter colours first. I was taught with oil paints to really paint all the darker colours first and then go lighter, which works well if you're working in layers and letting layers dry. But then sometimes working quite quickly, just in one layer, it kind of makes sense to get the light on first. So I'll just show you this picture I did work on yesterday. Yeah, that say, well, either of these actually. Didn't really finish either of these, but say something like this one with the boats. These white, I actually started with the white bits there because I knew that if I did the dark bit, I'd have to either paint around every window, which was a bit, a bit of a faff, or the light would very quickly get contaminated. And it's the same with this one really. So particularly in the clouds, I kind of left gaps for the highlights, and then I could get a certain amount of light painting, but it's easier to kind of keep some bits light. And again, with the people, I sort of did some of the lighter bits. I can do the odd dot and dash of highlights, but sometimes you can contaminate the bright colours too quickly.
The nice thing about the composition is that the light in the background really takes your eye through with the paths.
Yeah,
Through and up.
Yeah, I think that's what appealed to me, sort of travel through. Yeah.
Well, if you're painting in acrylics, just going back to your light on dark and dark on light,
Yeah.
which would you do in acrylics?
I think it depends on the strength of the colour. Sometimes I would do the light, because I know that some of the acrylic paints, particularly like, say, if you've got a student quality paints, sometimes, say, like a yellow won't cover really dark colours very easily, unless you've got like good quality, artist quality, very, very expensive yellows. They tend to be more transparent, so that darker colours might show through. So I would say it depends. Yeah, I decide on whatever the subject was. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah. Right. Okay. I'll let you get on.